Islam.
Ideologies. And for that cause, guess what they did? They said Jesus was born of virgin birth. And Joseph and Mary didn't have no sexual relationship. God just say, come on, Jesus, and you born. That don't make sense. It don't make sense to me. What it meant was there was a Essene brotherhood. And Mary and Joseph was a part of the Essene brotherhood. The Essene brotherhood was those that was living according to the word of God. And when Jesus was born, he was untouched. The virgin is pure and has been untouched. Because when you begin to look at that book that I told you about, you will see that Jesus was walking one day. And there was a sister that looked real fine, just like you. And when she was walking, Jesus got caught up. See, because Jesus had to go through all the ways of life too, just like Drew Ali. He got caught up because of the music and the beauty of this sister. And Jesus said, man, let me go and get myself together. So all of us have to go through all the ways of life. We all have certain characters in us. And we got to get these things out of us to be able to be one with our Father God Allah.
Islam. The Harbinger had paved the way. The Logos has been introduced to men as love made manifest. And he now must begin his divine ministry. And he went forth into the wilderness to be alone with Allah, that he might look into his inner heart and note its strength and worthiness. And with himself he talked, he said, my Lord's self is strong. By many ties I'm bound down to carnal life. Have I the strength to overcome and give my life a will and sacrifice for men? When I should stand before the face of man and they demand the proof of my messiahship, what would I say? And then the tempter came and said, if you be the Son of Allah, command these stones to turn to bread. And Jesus said, who is it that demands the test? It is no sign that one is Son of Allah because he does a miracle. The devil can do mighty things. Did not the Gentile magician do great things before the Pharaoh? My words and deeds in all the life shall be the proof of my messiahship. End of quote. First off, I like to rise to give praise to Allah. I like to give praise to Allah because he is the Father of the universe. He is the Father of everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. And this Allah that I'm speaking about heard us crying in the wilderness. And when he heard us crying in the wilderness, he sent us a prophet to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath is which to sure to come upon the earth. And this Allah sent us none other than the holy prophet Noble Ali. In every era of time, Allah sends only one. And in this era of time, he sent one with the methodology that was conducive to our growth and our development in this United States government. Because we know that even the Dred Scott decision said that the words all men are created equal was never meant to apply to the Negro, the colored, and more so the black, because nationality is the order of the day. And I'd like to give honor to all literature pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honor to all officials in the Moorish Science Temple of America, here, there, and everywhere. And last but not least, I'd like to give honor to ethics, because so many of us don't even try. At this time, I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. This Moorish Holy Quran is also known as the Book of the Seven Seals, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. And because when this show right here will be airing, it'll be during the European Christmas holiday. And for that cause, I'm going to talk to you from that perspective. So what I want to do first, I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. Now, before I read from the Moorish Holy Quran, I'm going to show you a Quran that I had for 50 years. I had this Quran right here 50 years. And when I opened the Quran, it's so old. It has a picture of the prophet on the front. Has a picture of the prophet on the front, and in the back, it has a picture of the head of the holy city of Mecca. And we was taught that you could look at this picture like this and see that the head of holy city of Mecca, head is resting in the holy prophet's breast. And also when you look at how this leader in the holy city of Mecca is sitting, he is sitting exactly the same way that Noble Jew Ali is sitting in this picture. But the only difference is that the brother from Saudi Arabia has his hands together and Noble Jew Ali don't. But the signs of him having his hands together is the uniting of Asia. Because when Noble Jew Ali went to the holy city of Mecca, he didn't go asking for anything. He went asking to give me back what's mine, and they thought he was talking about something tangible, but he was talking about the mind of his people. And the reason why he was talking about the mind of his people is because they said that Abraham's wife name was Sarah. And Sarah was not able to have children at that time. So Abraham had a handmaid named Hagar the Egyptian. And Hagar had a son for Abraham. And that son's name is Ishmael. And Ishmael is the father of the Arabian nation. So if Hagar, the Egyptian, the African, had a son, his son had to look just like me. Because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So I want to read from the book of the seven seals because we want to talk about Jesus. Everybody want to talk about Jesus. They want to talk about Jesus so much that they don't even have a J in hieroglyphics today, but we know on the tombs of Egypt, just like when Jew Ali went there, they looked on the walls and seen his birthday. And that's another reason why we knew who he was, because you can't sneak in the door because we are dealing with an ether plane. I seen a movie the other day, I'm gonna read the chapter, about some Cook-Bey brothers. And I stay on them because of German Bey and their relationship, and they are the ones that recommended him. But they was talking about how they could see a sister hemorrhaging, and when they see a lot of different things transpiring in the world, that Noble Jew Ali was able to stop that. And in the Moorish Science Temple of America right now, you still have brothers and sisters that has those kind of powers. You just don't know it because the elders say they'll carry it to the grave. They said that to me 50 years. They said they'll carry these teachings of the prophet Noble Jew Ali to the grave before they give it to somebody else that's going to take it and do something crazy with it. And all we see today is a lot of crazy stuff. But I want to tell you, reason why I'm saying that is because when we get into these spirituality, these spiritual lessons, they're of different levels. When you were talking about climbing Jacob's ladder, and when they say when climbing Jacob's ladder, every round gets higher and higher, we're talking about ether planes. As a man unfolds, his God unfolds. Man, God today, tomorrow is not his God. But as you overcome, because a lot of us just take quote, and recitation is no sign of elevation. I apply that to myself. But a lot of us just quote, but you'll find out that as you unfold, your God will unfold, and you'll be on a particular ether plane, and there's certain things going to come to you that you don't even know. That's why I'm still here today. But I want to read from the Moorish Holy Quran because my lesson today is going to be about Jesus. And see, the reason why my lesson is going to be about Jesus is because the question was asked, what do the Moorish children do during Christmas time when all of their little girlfriends and their little boyfriends is celebrating Christmas? And as Moorish Americans, a true Moorish American, everybody keeps trying to tell me who the Moorish Americans is today. Everybody want, this one ain't right, but you at least ain't but one prophet. You got a book that he ain't got, and he got a slip of paper that you ain't got, so you got the whole authority. And ain't but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. So Jew Ali gave us instructions. He gave us instructions about Christmas. He told us that we had a Moorish Christmas on January the 8th. And he was telling us that during these holidays, what we do is teach the gospel to our little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Because if we don't give them the truth, it's that through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery. And as long as we keep being disobedient to the instruction that the prophet gave us from the great God Allah. See, what you got to understand before I read the chapter again. I look at the Quran, and it say divine instructions. And I look at the Quran, it say from the holy prophet. So Jesus was divinely prepared. But when we look at these lessons during the time of Christmas, as you say, then that means that you are being divinely prepared too because you have these lessons. And as you unfold, your God will unfold. Your God today will not be your God tomorrow. So we know, and it says right here in the beginning of the Quran, these lessons are for all those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. But you got to understand that Noble Jew Ali gave us a genealogy. And the genealogy that the prophet gave us about Jesus being, we are talking about Christmas. See, we ain't talking about the Christmas tree. Because we know about Jeremiah. And we know what the book of Jeremiah says about Christmas. And we know that they dug us from the east to the west and buried us in a shallow grave. And when they buried us in a shallow grave, then you see Meshach, you see Rakshak, and you seen Abednego, but then you looked and you seen the fourth one. So now we're talking about Jesus. We're talking about Jesus because he was born in Bethlehem of Judah in the house of David. And it's talking about the house of David. The house of David was a providence. But the house of David is also a bloodline genealogy. So when you look at me and when you look at Jesus, another lesson that was given to me in another book, because I'm telling you what's coming out the book anyway before I read this, they was talking about Jesus one time. And they said Jesus had a birthday. And they say that his grandmother and his grandfather is the one that gave Jesus the birthday party. And then I looked real close because when the sheik started showing me something, he said his grandmother's name is Anna. That's Murray's mother. And they say his father's name is Jacquin. I said, Jacquin? All my brothers and all my sisters are running over there to the Masonic order during Christmas time and Eastern Star learning about Jacquin and Boaz, not knowing that they're your forefathers anyway, because Ruth she married Boaz. And when she married Boaz, it was because her husband had died. But when they took me in the upper room, they told me that when they say the woman become a widow, and a woman become a widow when a man is dead. So now, if you call yourself black, then the woman is dead. Because when she bring one into the world, she gonna call him black. And when the book say, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee, you are no longer on earth when you call yourself black. Now I started to bring the Bible here because I wanted to read about that Jeremiah thing in Jeremiah. And then I got to thinking about King James. And in the upper room again, we call him James Stewart. And man, this dude had a lot of partners. And a lot of girls he was all right too. He was all right with Isabella. He was all right with Ferdinand. And you know Isabella and Ferdinand, when the two kings of Aragon and Castile came together, then that's how they was able to put the Moors into slavery. So when you begin to talk about Vespucius, Queen Isabella, and King James, all of these of they who did this to your forefathers and mine, and on December the 25th, we celebrate that day. When you all said January the 8th is our new Christmas. See, because whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. In every Arab time, the methodology might be different. But in this Arab time, we got signs everywhere talking about Black Lives Matter. Black lives don't matter. Because when you say you black, then you saying that you are dead. Because black, according to science, means death. And death means when someone dies. And if you are not honoring your father and your mother, that your days may be longer upon this earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee, then you're dead. That's why we know what you all he had to come. He had to bring you your father and your mother. And your father was the great God Allah. He brought you back your nationality. Now, a lot of people going around saying that they with the national side when you all say our divine and national movement. And when you with the national side, it reminds me of when you say Moorish. See, when you say Moorish, it reminds me like a bun, Danish, or reminds me of Irish. So when you say Moorish, then that means that if I go to the store and I buy me a steak, and when I'm eating my steak, and my steak tastes like a banana, then that's the issue's not there. So when you don't say you national and international, or Moorish American and Muslim, because a Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah, then that means that you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect, because they place their name upon names, dates, and issues. And for what issue are we talking about now? We're talking about issuing you your nationality card. And what I'm telling you right now, well, I'm not going to say who, because the whole world was called Asia at one time. Even those people today that call themselves European, they're Asiatic, because they come from me. Even the Chinese tell you that. They come from us. Because Africa is the cradle of civilization. Ain't no big thing, because you could claim to be anything, but you're not living it. If you're not trying to walk it, and what I'm talking about, be yourself, not trying to be nobody else. They say that all the time in Baltimore. Be yourself and nobody else. But who are you? You're an Asiatic Muslim. You're an Asiatic Muslim because there were two formulations, Asiatic and European. So now you're not European and you're a Muslim because you submit your will to Allah. How do you submit your will to Allah? You can be growing long as we're on this plane of things made manifest. If you're a Christian, well, I ain't going to say that, because when I was growing up, when you found the ministers in the church, all the ministers in the church had got a calling from God. And they had a ministry and they would teach. But now you go to school. You don't go, you don't get the calling from God no more. You get ready to get you a bankroll, so you go and get a mega church and you get paid. And then when you do that, you done took a course in psychology, so you know what to say. You know what to touch. But during Christmas time, we touch our little babies so much, they can't wait to January. And then I had to give them some signs. I said, let me tell you another way that Allah blessed us. Day after Christmas, the European Christmas, what do they have? Sales. They have sales the day after Christmas, so all the more we be happy. Because we going to go get the same thing y'all paid all that money for, because we ain't going to do it to January. You can't serve two masters at the same time. This day hurts us so much. On December the 25th is the day that we cry, because you done took my Jesus. You done buried him in Vatican Square. You done took on his name. You done took Michelangelo and christened him to paint the picture of Jesus. Then they got Jesus looking like Ricky Nelson and Charleston Heston. Look what they have done to a clean and pure nation. I don't care if you got 100 airplanes. I don't care if you got 100 ships. And I don't care if you have 1,000,000 acres of land. It ain't going to mean nothing if you don't proclaim your nationality, because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And this is what Noble Jew Ali came to restore back upon us. And let me share this too. I'm not even going to read this lesson. I got another lesson. And I'm not going to read it, I'm going to quote it. You know, in 14 in the chapter, the prophet is talking about a lesson that we are having a lot of trouble with in the Moorish Temple of America. And in that chapter, we're talking about the subordinate temple. He said every subordinate temple under the grand major temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the prophet. So now me, I was married with Jones-Bey. I'm married with Jones-Bey, but I'm living in Tennessee. I got a temple. And the prophet told me that every subordinate temple of the grand major temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the holy laws of the prophet and the grand temple. So why are you leaving him? You only see him at the convention only once a year. Continue to build. But don't break away from him because he told you something that you couldn't accept, because you always said one prophet, one temple, and one nation. And the more we do that, is I'm listening all on social media and everywhere. We got people that's not even Moorish America. They're in the middle of something and are saying who is right and who is wrong and giving their understanding, but they have no idea what you all are talking about. And if certain things go on in the Moorish Temple, because we blessed. We thought this could be gone like Genghis Khan. Rome tried everything that they could to get rid of this movement. This is why it was a blessing what German Bey did, because if not, everybody would have died off. Right now, we're going crazy in the Moorish Temple. We got people with guns. We got people with this. But you know the prophet said he's going to make the European forces law. Ain't but one prophet and ain't but one temple. So everybody that's in the Moorish Science Temple of America that was with this grand body and left it and went somewhere else, you in violation. Because the prophet said, but one prophet, one temple, and one nation. We got people here in Portland, Oregon, going down there to people's houses, going in there, and when they go in, they squatting in the house, talking about this is theirs, talking about they ain't paying no tax, and they look at me, they're talking about they're going to want them right there. I said, I'm not one of them dudes. I said, I'm not one of them. Them are imposters. Girardi didn't say that. He said, all members must observe these holy divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government. Because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. He also gave us a lesson how we're so blessed that the European is protecting us in our ignorance and our infancy. His time been declared out when Allah sent a prophet to us with the methodology that we needed to deal with this government. And everything is coming up every day. So what we have to do is get into our Holy Quran. We have to understand that there's 7 tests in the Moorish Science Temple that Jesus brought to us. Just like right now, everybody is running here and there because of King Ambition. King Ambition is a foe that man must fight. Little brother told me the other day, I'm with him, but it's a lot of stuff that he do, I ain't in agreement with. I said, okay, my antennas went up. I said, there go King Ambition. Because he been in a minute, he gonna have his own thing and say, I'm the what you call. But we're gonna have to change that. So we're talking about divine creed. When we're talking about divine creed, we're talking about your higher self. See, we say that there are two selves, a higher self and a lower self. But we got to crush one of those selves. We got to crush one and tame the other. And which one are we going to tame? Are we going to tame our high or are we going to tame our low? We're going to say in the high. Because that's the one that don't change nor pass away. The lower self is an illusion, and that will pass away. So these lessons for all those that love Jesus, because Jesus was a bad man. Jesus had Abraham. You know how you go looking up this way, maybe California, and look at the Lakers, and you see all them banners up on the wall, all those championships. The reason why Jesus was able to overcome certain things that the other brothers didn't overcome is because he had to grow. They had to grow. So you got Abraham, you got Boaz by Ruth, you got Jesse, you got King David, you got Solomon, you got Hezekiah, and then comes Joseph by Mary. So Jesus learned from all of them. I remember in that lesson when Anna and Joaquin was giving Jesus a birthday party. Jesus didn't want nothing. He said, give all my stuff to the needy, the sick, and everybody. And when they was talking to Jesus, they said Jesus was liking when Mary taught him about Elihu and Salome. Now, you know who Elihu and Salome is because it's all in your Moorish Quran. But I remember when they wanted to kill all the babies that were 12 and under. And they had to get Jesus. And when they got John and Jesus, they had to take them to Egypt land. And when they took them to Egypt land, the chamber of Elihu and Salome took them in. I'm talking to you now, Moorish Americans, because we got to rise up above this flesh. You remember when Jesus was in the tomb? He was talking. He said, man, they put me in the tomb. He said, man, then I'm wrestling with the conquerors of men. And we're all wrestling with the conquerors of men. Anything that bound us down to this earth. Also in that same chapter, Jesus went to Chief Heal and said, man, I got a problem. The problem I got is said that we killing the lamb and we killing the dove. And if we killing the lamb and if we killing the dove and then you cooking the meat and everybody love the smell of me, you know, coming out, baby, what you cooking? I'm cooking some steak. It just smells so good. That's the dead meat. And this is what Jesus said in that lesson. He said, man, I don't understand it. He said, because we don't supposed to cause nothing that Allah has made to suffer pain, but because of economic security. And everybody knows that because we're in the flesh, because when the less you eat of the flesh anyway, just like the sisters. I remember back in the day when you go in the upper room, you had to cut all your hair off. That's what they did, a 13-ball head and more. But the sisters, if they ate a little meat, they say a week before you come on your administrative period, try not to eat no meat. And the reason why they told the sisters try not to eat none at all, but give yourself a week at least, because the animal blood and the human blood is fighting each other. So when you go on your period at that time of the month, they beefing. They beefing, so you got that human and that animal stuff in you, but when it's all, man, I'm telling you. So all these things we learn here in the Moorish Temple of America. And another reason, the brothers told me, what about the bald head, the 13 bald head? What about this and no hair here, no hair there? Well, you talking about now that we teach in the upper room too, about the neutrons, the electrons, and the protons. And they say the neutrons, the electrons, and the protons, talking about Jesus and his birthday. And I'm telling you what we learned and the present that he gave us on his birthday, he said they could run more freely through your body. Have you ever combed your hair? And when you take the hair, you see how it's sticking? You're dealing with electricity. So there's a lot of things about the human body we don't know. Even when we mix our blood with other nationalities, you're messing up the bloodline. You're messing up the ether that is there because every bloodline have a different ether. Now they say Ham, they said Noah had 3 sons. And they said Noah's three sons was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And let's look over there at Japheth right now. Because when you look at Japheth and look up the word Japheth, one of the definitions they're going to give you is Gog and Magog. They taught me that in the upper room too. And what is Gog and Magog? You're talking about the evil forces of the universe. You're talking about the lower self. Because there ain't but two selves, there ain't three of them. There ain't but two. The higher self and the lower self. And Jesus was talking about the higher self back in the day. So now let me read this chapter before I go on. I'm going to read from page 3 of our Moorish Holy Quran. And it reads on this wise. Know thyself and thy father God Allah. The genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons for all those that love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. Dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order and your children will learn to love instead of hate. The lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity. As I am a prophet and a servant is worthy of his hire, you can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages, have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publishing of this pamphlet of 1927 by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hammatites, and Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. That's we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran. And this is something that Noble Jew Ali brought us in 1930. I remember that I was sitting with one time with a brother that taught me. And he was and the sister too. And they was telling us how the prophet had to draw the veil a lot of times. They had to draw the veil because they didn't want these teachings to come out into the hands of certain people because of the Rosicrucian Society has stole the lessons. And when they stole the lessons, they were published in the book. Allah sent the spirit of Jew Ali. That's why they said, man, we can't understand how Noble Jew Ali knew this stuff back in the 20s because Allah did that. Allah sent Noble Jew Ali to bring us these lessons because it would have been a lockdown all the way if he didn't, because nobody was talking about nationality. Nobody was talking about the history of the Moors in Spain until the advent of Prophet Noble Jew Ali. And this is where the key is, because before the advent of slavery, we went into Spain in 711 to give Europe civilization. And when we come out of Spain in 1492, we was black people. We went into Spain as Moors, now we black. We black. And black according to science means there ain't no such thing as a black people, but when you come in the door, you gotta come in the door with history involved the slave trade in this era of time. See, there's many things we could talk about. Am I a Hebrew Israelite? Yes, I am. Jesus Hebrew. But in this era of time, the slave trade came in 1492 when the Portuguese, the French, and the Dutch on the high seas. This was after the Moors had conquered Spain. And the bad part about it, I was telling the brother today, my daughter, mother, Crystal's mother, she ran to me one day and she said, man, I was sitting with your sisters and they was telling me that my father never seen her naked. And she was astounded about that. But I remember all the age group that come up with me, the sister used to cut the lights out and take off the girdle and the quindling and get under the cover. You know, you get under the cover and then you cut the light out and then you make love and she be still under the cover. You get up. That's how the respect was. But you can't say that today because we eating things to get up and walk, the same thing that we went in Europe and told them not to do, that we done took on the concepts and the ideology of them. So when she said that, I like that because my father was born in 1898. There's another brother. And he ain't going to like it, but I don't care. He just come, he's a mean man, Earl Coleman Bay. He told me one day, he said, man, my mother was talking to this brother. And this brother told her something, you know, about some old crazy stuff. And she took all the dishes in the house and put them in the trash and threw them away. So a lot of times we were taking on concepts. We were taking on ideologies. We were taking on things that has nothing to do with us as a people. Can you imagine Jesus, Mother Mary? Can you imagine Mary and Elizabeth? And we run up in the door, and they got Joseph, and they got Joseph and John's father, Zacharias. They're in there with Mary, and they're in there with Elizabeth, and we go in there, and they have a threesome. Can you imagine that? Or can you go in there and see Mary and Elizabeth, and they're doing that old extra stuff with Joseph? Nah, they wasn't doing that because from the east comes all light. And though the sun is hanging at high noon, the blind cannot see the light. The same as the Islamic creed brought through the Asiatics of North America by Prophet Noble Jew Ali offered to those who were sick at heart. Tried for many years, yet they are blind and cannot see the light, nor the prophet trying to put new wine in old skins. That's why I give honor to my mother, too, because my father was born 1898. And everybody's mother and father gives them lessons. And one lesson that mother told me, she said, son, I didn't know what she was talking about at first. And when I just told you that about what my daughter's mother said, my mother told me to never eat anything that get up and walk. And it made sense when she said it. I just didn't understand what she was saying. But then when one of these old big Popeye good sisters I met, and she put that, I said, that's what Mama was talking about. She was telling me that. He want you to turn me out. But my father ain't never seen my mother naked. And we got 3 children. We have 5. 2 twins died. And he ain't never did that. You know why? Because this is a new era of time now. And in this new era of time now, everybody know everything. That's why they got so many things going on to stop you from getting into yourself. That's why when Noble Jew Ali came, he said, know thyself and thy father, God Allah. Because when you talk about knowing yourself, see, we're not talking about knowing ourselves because you know the lower self. We know about that illusion. We know the lower self can pass away, but in order for us to even deal with the Roman Empire, we're going to have to come into the spirit of the great God Allah because Allah going to work on boundless grace, just like every other 7 steward. See? And this is the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now I have no problem. Everybody want to come. You know, people used to come with all these other different groups in the Moorish Science Temple, even those that got guns and go down and sit in people's houses talking about their squatting in there and all that. Even they come to the Moorish Science Temple sometime when they need some literature. They need literature, so they come to the Moorish Science Temple. So we be nice. We got to stop giving them chumps our literature, though, because they're going to take it and use it, and when the European come in there and get them, they're going to see Jew Ali. So we got to watch who we give our literature to, too. See, because it ain't good. Because you don't really want the Quran. You just want to say that you got one. But you already did say nationality and divine creed. And you got to get in the creed because the creed is the other fifth. They say you were 3/5 of a man. You were 3/5 of a man because 2/5 was missing. And the 2/5 that was missing was your nationality and your divine creed. You know, honoring your father and your mother. Something that was taken away from you. See, Jubilee said with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. There you go. And your divine creed, that will make you a Muslim. Your divine creed, that you may know that you are part and partial, national and international, of this said government. And know that you are not Negroes, because Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water, but through the Berlin Conference, that river is in Brazil now. So he said, you're not Negro and you're not colored, because colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. And when you take a dirt pool, we'll say tinted evil. So you're not Negro, colored, black, or Ethiopia. I don't like calling the word Ethiopia because we know what the Greeks did. And see, same thing they did in Egypt. See, so when you're talking about the Greeks, they named it Ethiopia, but it was first known as Abyssinia. Just like when you be talking about Persian, that was Iran. See, a lot of different names that they had, but when you look at all these people today, they are European with an accent. They're not from Morocco. They say, why you say that you Moorish American or not Moroccan American? What Morocco are you speaking about? Are you talking about French Morocco? Are you talking about Spanish Morocco? But through scientific study and investigation, we come to find out that that flag right there, the red flag, with a 5-pointed green star in the center, was flying here in the United States when it wasn't even being flown in Morocco. So now I got a problem with that. Now the flag just went over in Morocco in 1956. Some of the sheiks went over there when they raised it up. So if they accept this flag in 1956, and before then, they had the French flag. And you know why they had the French flag in Morocco before they got that flag? Is because they're French. See? Same thing when you look at Arabia, when you look all over in the Middle East. Look at them people. If they talked to you and didn't tell you what nationality they was, then you'll say that's a European. Because you can look at the stock. I won't have to tell you what it is. I can look at a brother just like in the United States. When I was a child, the only Africans that you would see are those come from West Africa. And all of them had marks on their face. But then all of them look different. They look different from the Ethiopian, don't they? Those brothers that came from West Africa back then, they look different. You know why? Because those that was like Ethiopian place like that, they look more like us, our skin play. Why? Because of the Europeans who took charge. He didn't put that blood in there. And see, when you begin to talk about blood, you got to talk about a bloodline. And when you talk about a bloodline, that's why some people want to mix the blood. They want to mix the blood because it keeps them on earth. They could be outside in the summertime. They won't get burnt from the sun. And they're going to mix the blood because they'll live on completely. So through carnal thoughts and words and deeds, man tore himself away from Allah. He debased himself. And how do you debase yourself from Allah? By not living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The Moorish Science Temple of America, you know, when we got our paperwork in 1928, in 1929, the Vatican got their paperwork. What you mean the Vatican got their paper? Well, Jew Ali say it's for your earthly salvation. He said, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and our divine salvation. So some things you can't think about it. Just like the European was telling us in a college course over there. He said, man, all these Moorish Americans found all this stuff. Jew Ali already did it, but I'm glad they found all this paperwork because they telling us something that we didn't know nothing about. They don't realize that. And one more thing it was asked. All these brothers and sisters, they got these little groups and things. Teach your lessons inside of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Don't call yourself the Moorish this or the Moorish that. Man, because before we leave this plane of things made manifest, we should try to help bring this back under one head like the prophet left it. Because we was told too that in a little while you're going to need 16 secretaries. But like I'm saying again, when I said that about the literature and people coming in there, now you got to go back to work. And when you got to go back to work and you haven't took your shot, then you're going to lose your job. And you can say that, well, I got a religious right not to take it. So now everybody, 4 or 5 people been coming to us. They want letters and they want a nationality card. And people sending them over here to get that. But man, we see you coming. I don't mind being used, but don't misuse me. You got the literature. But don't come over here and tell us to give you a letter so you can go and you talking about some national side, you talking about something else, no good and well you ain't. You know what I mean? That's disrespectful anyway. But yeah, they have a lot of that. But I don't mind being used, don't misuse, and the doors are open because you all least said the Moorish Science Temple of America. And when you say that you with a national side, man, you ain't all right. We ain't together. We are not one. Because Noble Drew Ali bought national and international. He bought national divine creed. I heard a brother on social media the other day seen the ORT and compound. He said it was some temple SHIT. Man, I cuff that dude off because they don't know. And we're being held accountable for anybody to teach these things to our little babies. Because you're dealing with their emotions anyway, and the things that the government have done to us, they act like that and say, I don't want no religion. But religion is law, and law is government. Why was religion instituted? To teach thee of thy weaknesses, to show thee that from heaven alone are thou the hope for good. So our forefathers, there's never been a prophet. Never have there ever been a prophet that come out of Europe. The only thing that come out of Europe is wheat and hay. So when you begin to look about Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, you're talking about those from the east where the light comes. It say from the east comes all light. Now you got some people that added 5 or 6 other names, but you all least said Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. He didn't add no other name. Let's keep it like the prophet left. He said, I brought you everything that it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. And all you got to do is take what you all bought us and save ourselves. He bought us everything. But you big-headed. You don't want to get into that book that Lynch-Bey said in his book ain't no good. I am stop talking about him because I knew that brother 50 years almost. But he put in the book and said you don't need this, all you need this. But see, that brother, when the prophet passed, the book wasn't out yet. And he put that book together just in reference to the circle 7, that's red, green, brown, and gray. And he put that together and put it as the 7 tests that Jesus had to pass. And we were looking at, it said that Jesus was talking about the Psalms of David. See, because when you talk about the Lord, see, they got you thinking and me thinking that we can't reach the heights that Jesus reached. But Jesus said, what I've done, all men can do, and what I am, all men can do. So when you say the Lord, see, in our chapter, it says man is the Lord of the plane of things made manifest, but he gave up his birthright just to gratify his lower self. So when you talk about Lord, when Solomon and David wrote the Psalms, they wasn't talking to Jesus. Jesus wasn't even born yet. Jesus came way down the line. Abraham, Boaz, by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and then Joseph by Mary. And when Jesus first started teaching, his parents was teaching about Elihu and Salome. Because they are the ones that protected us in the chamber, and they were the ones that Jesus went after so many years to see again and was jumped up. So this is what we have to get into. Our forefathers, Allah brought us something through Jew Ali, and once we get into this, then we'll come back into our own. Because a lot of times, you think that you're a wit, but you're not. I told you one time that the 2 Cook-Bey brothers that were with the prophet, and they was in Sunday school. And Cornelius Cook-Bey, Salome's son. And I don't forget certain things. They was in Sunday school, and both of them was in the Sunday school when the prophet Noble Ali was teaching. And one of the brothers said, the prophet said this. The other said, no, the prophet said that. And I can relate to things like that because if you're not on that same ether plane, you'll miss. That's just like we got a brother, I passed some literature out in the temple the other week about a brother named Hess Miller Ill. He ran a logo circle inside the institutions. And the brothers out of D.C. ran in there and took all his stuff. And the same thing that other brothers had to do, they got the book from Kirkland Bay, they had to put in there, is anybody that's not authorized for this, may the spirit of Allah spank you for even take, because brothers was taking, brothers that they knew that had reached certain heights, and they haven't reached it yet, they're going there and steal him, knock him out, and take his literature and everything. And that's why you hear people quoting certain things, and then when you see them, they ain't living like they're quoting. They're acting different. And that's what's transpiring because it comes in elevation. Noble Jew Ali prepared a place for us. And he said, if you prepare a place for you, I will come again. Because he lived through us. See, we're not talking about no burnt offerings. We had burnt offerings for so long. Now, burnt offerings is inside that chapter too. And all these things are talking to you and me. Because Jesus, it said Jesus was first reincarnated in the Prophet Muhammad. Then they said, Jesus, that Jew Ali come again. Ain't nobody else coming this earth, just like you had people that was wearing fezes like this. But once they left the Moorish temple and went to the black house over there, they had to take them off. Because the Europeans said, you got to take that off. You can't support that. You can't support that idea because black men don't wear that. Unless you tie down and then work for me and let me give you what I want to give you when it's you all the time. See? So, man, it's a blessing to be in the Moorish Science Temple because this is our ancient forefathers speaking to us. We have a flag. We have a flag that flies in the United Nations. I told you when Malcolm went to the UN, bringing the United States before the World Court, he could not get on the agenda with a red, black, and green flag because the red, black, and green flag was the flag of Marcus Garvey's organization, the UNIA. So his national flag was the flag of Jamaica because he was from St. Anne Bay, Jamaica. So you got a lot of brothers looking crazy, running around here with a red, black, and green flag, talking about the black is for my faith. Man, nationality order today. You're not black. I got some friends of mine, we together, they got PhDs in college. One day they are men of color, people of color, they Negro, so-called black. They got so many names, but they ain't but one me. I'm Moorish American. I'm Moorish American because I'm a descendant of Moroccans and born in America. And who are these Moroccans that you are speaking about? They are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So who are these Moabites then? They are the biblical sons and daughters of Ham, one of the three sons of Noah, according to the biblical scriptures. And this is why we're Hamitic by descent nature, by the way of Lot. Now, Lot is the son of Haran. Haran, then Abel is the son of Teru. Teru is the son of Reu. Reu is the son of Pelah. Pelah is the son of Eber. Eber is the son of Salah. Salah is the son of Factor. Factor is the son of Shem. And Ham had three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. So it's always an honor, a pleasure, moreover a duty to come before you and talk to you about the last prophet in these days and time, the holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. So in conclusion, I would like to quote something that the prophet gave us in chapter 25 of the Moorish Holy Quran. He said, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother has given ye suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brother, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race. His care be continued to you all in your love to each other. That's a holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer. And this Moorish American prayer, it tells you that Allah is the father of the universe. And it's talking about this universe, because how many planets are there in the universe? And the amount of planets is the holes in your body, but the woman has one more. So Allah is the father of this universe that protects me by day and by night. Allah, the father of the universe, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All in my neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, all in my neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. All in my neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The need for unity is so great that it's better to unite than to eat, sleep, drink, talk, or walk. This is the hour of deception. A house divided cannot stand. And for that cause, we're preparing ourselves to become one again with our Father, God Allah. We must remember the mighty and great need for unity. We must remember the cause of our fall. And why is it so hard for this age to comprehend the resurrection of the dead? And when we talking about the resurrection of the dead, and we talking about being born again, we're talking about changing your thought pattern. See, the things you used to think, you don't think no more. The ways that you used to move, you don't move no. So you're born out of one thought pattern into another. So when Nicodemus was telling us that Jesus been born again, he said that which is of the flesh, he said go back to the flesh and to the spirit. So if that which is of the flesh is of the flesh, and that which is of the spirit is of the spirit, you first was born of the flesh. And now that you're in the flesh, going over these trials and tribulations and overcoming these things of the world, you're going to have to be born again. And then when you're born again, you have to be born of the spirit. But what spirit you have to be born of? Because man is spirit and a part of Allah. But the devil is spirit too. The devil is spirit and a part of his father, whoever that is. So when we're talking about overcoming, let's do that. Peace. Hey, Mo, you got me. You told me.